everybody. Welcome back to Venture Capital TV from LaToken. My name is Sonny Mohanty, and I'm the Regional Director of LaToken based in Singapore. And today I'm going to moderate the show to discuss about investment opportunities in Asia with esteemed panel of speakers from the region. So let's just have a quick round of intro of the speakers of the panel today. And here we go. Who do we have? Hi, Vandana. Hi, Harsh. Hi, Anuj. How are you today?
Doing good.
I'm doing good.
Right. Welcome, both of you. I see Anuj here, but I don't see his camera switched on. That's why we don't see him here. So let's have a quick round of intro before we deep dive into this topic. Vandana?
So, first of all, thank you for yourself and LaToken TV for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be here and connect with people globally and discuss on important topics. I had my own family office in Singapore and Jakarta. I worked as an investment banker and advisor to family offices and angel investors in Jakarta, Indonesia, helping startups from a diverse background from fintech, B2B tech, and all the way to consumer startups. I was raising funds for them and providing them with a range of services, just as Convanto does today. And after 15 years of staying in Singapore and Jakarta, I came back to India. I did investments for a bit, then returned to advisory. That is when Convanto was founded. Today, Convanto is one of the most well-known boutique investment banks in India, led by a female founder. I'm also a venture advisor with Loyal VC, the INSEAD-led Canadian VC fund, having a core portfolio of over 160 investments in more than 35 countries. I'm also a partner with GSD Venture Studios, a Silicon Valley-based venture builder. Over the years, I've arranged funding for startups and growth stage companies in diverse sectors like edtech, fintech, consumer B2C, B2B, agri-tech, health tech, food tech, disruptive and deep tech, as well as non-tech sectors. I would recommend all of you to have a look at my website for the wonderful testimonials written by my clients. This month, my brand Convanto and myself, we are nominated, no, selected as one of the top 10 women leaders in wealth management 2021. My brand Convanto is one of the topmost brand in women entrepreneurs this month. My expert opinion is sought by leading business news channels like Business World and VCTV. I have participated in over 160 plus talks, and you can all see them on VCTV and YouTube channels. I'm connected with 300 plus investors globally, and we pick up global deals. We are sector agnostic. Our ticket size is $1 million to $30 million. And once again, Sunny, thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Vandana. And always a pleasure to have you on our shows. And
Thank
welcome
you.
back. Harsh. Hi, Harsh. How are you again? Nice to see you again today.
Hey Sonny, glad to be back. Glad to and have familiar faces like Vanda and Gary over here. Just a short intro about myself. I'm a venture partner with our ventures. Additionally, I independently work with a lot of startups, helping them raise funds all the way up to $20 million, primarily through combination of equity and debt, whichever works best for the company, and try to protect as much equity for the founder as possible. Additionally, if startups require any help in terms of growing their business through growth marketing, strategic connections, strategic partnerships, they can feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to help out. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you and welcome back on the show. Oh,
Glad
I
to be
see
back.
Gary here. Thank you. Gary,
Yeah, I'm
hi. How
here.
are you?
I'm good. Just got a nice bike ride, 10 miles. I'm feeling great. I was up at 4:30 in the morning riding my bike.
Right.
Anyhow, it's great to be here. My name's Gary Fowler. I love artificial intelligence, quantum computing, cybersecurity. I'm a serial entrepreneur, done 17 companies, been involved in an IPO on NASDAQ, also two unicorns. I was on the original management team at Click Software, sold to Salesforce for 1.35 billion in Eva.ai. I'm the CEO, co-founder, and president of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in Silicon Valley. We work now in 37 countries. We have an accelerator called GSD Labs, which is a top accelerator for companies that want to go global. current cohort has 18 companies in it from around the world. We just love it, from Nigeria to the UK, California. I mean, you name it. Because intellectual capacity is evenly spread, but opportunities aren't. And today, with the threat of COVID around us one more time, being able to use the digital transformation to get the word out, just like we're doing here on VCTV, is great. I'm also on the radio in New York. I'm in iHeartRadio. I participated in a guest a number of different times, and several shows, including VCTV and the Founders Report.
Yes, I see you on the Founders Report, Gary. And thank you so much. And again, a pleasure to have the VCTV family reunion on this platform. So today we're discussing about investment opportunities in Asia. So Asia is huge, as we all know. It's a big continent. We're gonna obviously start with Asia, and then we're gonna sort of nail down into different countries that we have in Asia. So let's start with this opening remarks. How has the investment landscape of Asia changed over time? Gary, I would like to ask this question because obviously you are from Silicon Valley and you are mostly active in that region in US. So as for you, how has the investment landscape in Asia changed compared to Silicon Valley?
Well, I mean, the situation is we're in Silicon Valley, but we work all over the world. I lived in Russia 10 years, actually 14 years in total. So, it's about mining those opportunities. Most people don't realize there's 4.5 billion people in Asia, right? Almost 4.6 billion. So we got a huge population, and a lot of it's been untapped. And, the situation is, I look at it, it's kind of like being an old movie called Indiana Jones. You're out there searching the Holy Grail. Well, we're looking for those AI companies. We want to catch them before anybody else sees them, or quantum computing companies, and to be able to curate them, use Silicon Valley as a port to be able to take the product to the rest of the world. So it's changed because of the digital transformation. So it doesn't matter if you're in Vietnam or Indonesia or Singapore or Australia. It doesn't really matter. It matters where you really fit in terms of your technology, whether or not you have the right team. The fundamentals matter. Now, the one thing that's interesting is the valuations are a bit lower in Asia than they are in the US. So that's a good thing because we can find some good deals. But remember, the idea is to treat people fairly, to be able to do the right thing, because you want to work with them in the future. You never know. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, as Forrest Gump said a long time ago. And we want to make sure that we build long-term relationships with people that aren't just for today, but they're for the future.
Oh, yes. So coming to valuations, I'll obviously, that was my second question, but thank you, Gary, for those opening remarks. Vandana, next to you, I'd like to know. So you are predominantly in India right now, but you've also worked in Indonesia, you worked in Singapore, and now obviously partnered with GSD. So what have you seen? What are the differences between the investment landscape in the West versus the East? I would say probably you can start talking about India, then and other regions.
Yeah. See, what has happened is there's a drastic change in everything. The way we look at things, the way things have changed in the health industry, in the fintech industry, in the edtech space. Almost everywhere there is a total 360 degrees change that I see right now. Prior to this, where there were edtech companies, where there were fintech, where there were different health tech companies that came up, even food tech, cloud kitchens for that matter, were never there before the pandemic. So when demonetization had hit us, I myself, I didn't know how to use Paytm, and that's why I keep telling this on my talks that we changed our way we look at things. Now even everybody is using digital payments, to whether it's the taxi man, whether it's the milkman, whether it's a vegetable vendor. So people change because they were pushed to change. Similarly, when the pandemic hit us, platforms like Zoom, StreamYard, AirMeet, Microsoft Teams, all these platforms when everybody started using, they realized the importance of working online and how effective it can be, and how people can connect globally, and finish deals very very fast, have 10 meetings in a day rather than spending more time on the road, or on the flights, etc. So
Yeah,
that has got a lot of change. Look at it, we are having Zomato went for an IPO, it's a loss making company. So there's a change in the mindset. We have a
right,
lot of fintech deals that happen, a lot of new edtech companies that sprung up, and people realize that education can also be considered online, work can be considered online. So there's a lot of change in the market all throughout. People have started believing in crypto and blockchains, which initially was not the case. And there are a lot of changes that are happening all throughout the world. I see a lot of SPAC deals happening now. I think we are progressing in the right direction, and a lot many deals will happen in all the spaces. Even in health tech spaces, we will see a lot many deals happening this year, and all throughout the Asia, a lot of unicorns have been created.
right.
So I'm quite positive about the changing trends and how the market has completely changed.
I totally agree with you. The investment landscape in Asia is, I would say, catching up very fast with the West, the Silicon Valley mostly, with the SPAC deals happening, more unicorns coming out of the
Yeah.
region. So yeah, it's looking all good. Harsh, your opening remarks, please.
Yeah. So when you look at, when you consider Asia in terms of the startup ecosystem, right?
Yeah,
Three names kind of pop up, right? China, India, and Singapore, and Hong Kong at most, right? These are the four names. But Asia is a lot bigger than that, right? Do you look at the opportunities? In fact, I'm in touch with a few startups from Pakistan, a few startups from Bangladesh. They are asking, help us out in terms of how do we structure the company, how do we structure the growth, etc. And the people over there, they don't have access to resources, right? So that
right,
is where, and they are still nascent markets. So if you kind of work with the startups from, say, Bangladesh, the entire Southeast Asian market,
yeah,
Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, the opportunities over there are endless. You even look at the former USSR, right? Russia is extremely active right now in terms of startup ecosystem. As in, they are doing a lot of visa programs and kind of inviting founders from across the world to join Russia. They are giving
Mhm.
the startup visa programs, that kind of stuff. So
Wow,
Russia is getting very active. Even the former USSR, a lot of smaller countries are there, which like Georgia and the others, which aren't really that well known, but they still have tremendous amount of opportunity, right? So that is why if you look at it, Asia, the Asian market is ripe, set up, and especially from people from countries like India and Singapore, who have kind of had this wave over the last decade, and seen the growth that is happening. If people like us can participate and help those startups over there, even those countries would really kind of completely skyrocket, and the opportunity to be seen on the over there will be tremendous.
wow. I didn't know about a starter visa in Russia. I mean, can you give me like a little bit more information? Like what's, I mean, maybe later or just quickly, very quickly over here. What's that?
So essentially, it's what they are doing is they want to invite entrepreneurs from across the world and kind of
Right,
join them, right? And even for the local startups, they're giving a lot of opportunities to kind of collaborate. So Startup India and the Russian, I think it was a Russian diplomacy, the diplomat agency which was there. They did a
yeah,
joint collaboration and trying to figure out how Startup India can collaborate with the Russian entity, and how we can do a talent transfer, how you can do intellect IP transfer to ensure that the Russian startup ecosystem also kind of balloons, right? So it's not like the Canadian startup visa program, but they're still trying to facilitate a lot of these interactions and a lot of these discussions to ensure that the Russian program they come up, because I'm sure as Gary can also allude to, be testament to the fact the kind
mm,
of technological innovation which happens in Russia is
mm,
absolutely phenomenal. The
yeah.
problem is the lack of resources, and once they get access to that, it's just a matter of time.
Mm. I think you're totally right. Absolutely on the point in terms of the tech talent. Yes. So yes, let's just focusing on Asia. But I would still believe that there are some challenges investing in Asia as compared to US or Africa. So what kind of differences do you see, like from challenges, like Asia is huge, like as all said, so like dominant country would be India, Singapore, mostly, and obviously Hong Kong to a larger extent. But apart from these countries, there are other countries. What are the different challenges that you face when investing into the startups ecosystem in these countries? Vandana,
So,
or Harsh, you like to start first, or
Yeah, I
sure,
mean,
I can.
I can start. So,
okay, okay, yeah, yeah.
the situation is that the challenges are the rule of law, right? The reason that we use Silicon Valley as a port is because investors know if they put their money in a company and there's some kind of a challenge that, I've heard stories and I've seen it, but I actually started the first accelerator in Russia myself with my partner, Lawrence Wright. So I've seen ecosystem develop, and you're right, Harsh, it's blossoming today, but there's still the same issue is, because of the political situation, geopolitical situation, it's hard for those companies to get out to the rest of the world. And one of the challenges you have is, again, the rule of law. The companies want to make sure, the investors want to make sure that their money's protected and that people are going to do the right thing with the money. So what we do is we relocate the companies to the valley so
Yeah.
that the investors feel, the VCs and family offices feel that they are protected. And you have Stanford University. You got some of the top companies in the world have started out of the valley. I mean, the revolution, the whole idea of the startup ecosystem started in Silicon Valley. Came out of Stanford. Came out of the actually defense in the 50s in the semiconductor industry. So it's well established. So if I want to meet somebody from India or one of Singapore or China or Russia, or I want to meet VCs, I can meet them within 5 minutes of my office. I just go over to Stanford University in Sand Hill Road. Really, like 40% of the money in the world's or 50% still located there. So what I think that, the challenges that you have is, one is you have a different mentality. You have this, we can't fail. We'll lose face mentality in some parts of the world, especially in Asia. Same thing in Russia. Their grandmothers would say in Russia, "Oh, don't do it. You have a good education from Moscow State University or Phys Tech. Why don't you become a professor?" That kind of thing. And so one of the, failures is not a good thing in some countries. So what we want to do is you need to have people that are accepting. In Silicon Valley, failure is okay. In fact, it's a good thing. If you go into a VC and say, "I failed with the company," they know at least you know what not to do, right? So I think that, and yet at the same time, the intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world. There's opportunities everywhere. We need to work together in three ways: intergenerational teams, cultural diversity, and decentralized teams. So if you want to have development done, if you're doing it in AI, you can use resources in India, Russia, the Ukraine, Belarus, even Africa,
Yeah.
but all over the world. You got to use the resources where you get the most amount of impact and the least cost. Where can you find those kind of resources? And the secret sauce is putting those teams together. Then at the same time, you have to have the best management teams. You need operations, sales, marketing, business development. So when you build those blended teams, that's where the magic happens.
Right. I mean, definitely. I mean, obviously, there are some cultural nuances in every, like, as in Russia, like India, also, everybody wants to be like, you have to study, you have to do either engineering, like professor, engineering, rather than, the mentality is there, like, it's about the higher degrees and everything. So, Ash, as rightly Gary said, I mean, the Russian culture and the Indian culture, I think, there are similarities. What do you think?
Yeah, so they are extremely similar. And one more point which is very similar is the fear of failure, right? So you have the Silicon Valley culture where they encourage failure, move fast, break things because they see money as what it is, right? You can always generate more money, but you cannot get back time. So the idea is, experiment as quickly as possible, try and do as many new things as possible within 3 months, 6 months. It's better to do that and save on time rather than trying to conserve money and end up wasting time, right? So that
Yeah.
is a huge mindset shift which I believe is required in the Asian side, which the US side have kind of napped in, especially with the way the current, if you look at the way the global financial system is right now, we're essentially getting money for like 0 and 1%. So it's essentially free money, right? All the more reason why time has become far more valuable compared to money. So that one huge mindset shift is required. Number one. Number two, the government support is lacking. So if you look at the areas, Raghu told this. Raghu's from New Jersey. He
Yeah.
had told me this, that in New Jersey
Yeah.
there's a angel investment protection law. The same, they get a lot of angel investors get a lot of benefits when you're setting up a company over there. Same is true for UK. So in UK, if an angel investor invests money, they do
Yeah.
get a lot of tax benefits and tax rebates because of the
Okay.
angel investment which is being done, right?
Mm.
In a country like India and some of the lesser developed countries,
Mm.
what might happen is the government would actually see that as an incentive to kind of use that as a false money kind of a thing. So that is where a mindset issue kind of created. So if the government can kind of create incentives for angel investments, that is going to be truly kind of taking it to the next level. Because what happens is VCs typically want to see a certain amount of traction before they kind of get on board, right? You get like 1 lakh users, 5 lakh users, you get those kind of users.
Yeah.
That is when the VCs truly get interested and they'll be willing to pump in $2 million, $5 million, right? But at the very early stage, you need angels to be who are willing to take the risk and invest. But without that kind of security protection, it becomes extremely difficult to kind of stimulate angel investment. So that I believe is a core difference maker between, say, a Silicon Valley and in India or Russia or the other market.
I think totally agree. I've also heard about government support and all the grants. Yeah. Thank you. Vandana, would you like to add something to what just Gary and Harsh mentioned?
Yeah, totally. I agree with both of them. There are unique business cultures and non Western political ideologies in Asia, that intensify the protection towards the domestic economy, particularly in China and Japan. The interference of the government in the private sector can impede the business contracts, erode, partnership stability, and also the diverse banking and financial landscape of the region presents another challenge. With no singular regulator, different trading centers and diverse currency rates, Asian nations can keep their currencies low to promote export growth. And the legal system in many of the Asian countries is slow moving,
Yeah.
meaning that they don't honor the contracts, and in case of any dispute it's difficult to follow the laws and regulations and get on the same path. Not only that, I think during the pandemic, I don't know if you heard or no, there were a lot of anti money laundering laws which stopped a lot of investments.
Right.
And the money, so the founder is waiting here for the money to hit the accounts, but because of some law that has changed, everything went haywire. So I think there's a lot of challenge in those aspects, and we need to gear up more in creating more technologies and advanced technologies that can help solve these issues really fast, without taking much time. Not only that, in different countries in Asia, there are different challenges. Especially in India, there are also a little bit challenges related to women entrepreneurs,
Right.
which creates a setback for them, or for the talent to come through. So I think these are the various challenges that the Asian countries would face.
I think yeah, that anti-money laundering thing. I don't know, but yeah, probably yes. But yeah, that's a big thing, right? You have to follow the regulations in place for sure. Coming over to investors and startups and founders in Asia, what kind of advice we have? Like, let's just have a look at both the two sides of the coin, like both perspectives, from a investor perspective and also from a startup founder perspective. So, what best practices would you advise to both? Like, if you're planning to invest into Asia, and you are probably planning to take a startup who is at a growth stage to the West because they are ready to go global, or even if an early stage startup in Pakistan or Bangladesh, they have a very good product, and it's quite scalable. So, what are the best practices they can have from you, Gary?
Yeah, so one of the things you want to do is make sure you have good local partners, especially if it's an early stage investments, because you don't want to get into a situation that, because you don't understand the cultural nuances, you get taken advantage of. And like Vandana said, I mean, some countries, contracts are the starting point for negotiation. So once you sign the contract, they start to negotiate after the contract. So you got to be careful, because if you don't realize that, you may cut a deal and they say, well, we want to change it. You're not going to get 20% of the company. You're going to get 15. And so you end up having legal issues, and it's hard to take them to court if they're in a country that you're not familiar with. So again, that's why we use Silicon Valley as support. In terms of the early stage, you just have to have good connections. But if
Right.
you're a growth stage company, they're probably ready to go global, and then you can make a move to make sure things are short. I mean, I've heard things as somebody got financed, got some investment, and they went out and bought a brand new BMW. This is a true story, literally. And it was insane. They bought a convertible, and they were driving around so proud. They just got their money. They got funded. And I couldn't believe it, actually, but it was just the culture. And so you got to be careful that you don't get into that scenario. It's about, you need to have trust. It's like getting married. You need to make sure that you're all moving in the right direction, that everybody's on the same page,
Yeah.
and that, it's focused on the money's not their personal money. The money's to be used to be able to build the growth of the company. So we just use local partners. We're looking for the right people, the right place, the right time. We look for companies that we believe are ethical, that understand the value of global. If they understand that they need to go global, the rules are different, and they get it. And if they don't, you either educate them with an accelerator and teach them the rules, or you don't deal with them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Same question, Harsh,
Sure,
to you as well. So,
sure. So definitely at early.
example was hilarious, by the way. Thank you.
Sorry,
Sorry.
what was that?
The BMW example was hilarious, by the way.
Correct. No, and it's extremely common, right? Even in India. So back in 2013, 2014 days, these stories were very common in India as well. As in, they would get this new funding round of 5 million, 10 million, and the startups would, you would see outside the corporate offices, they're lined up with BMWs, Mercedes, Porsche, and it used to be so common that, and 2 years down the line, the company got bust. So that is essentially why it becomes extremely important to realize. And the same point was highlighted by Kingsley yesterday, right?
Yeah,
That the money which you've gotten, that's not your money. That money is for the company, to grow the company, not for personal use. So that distinction is extremely important. And as far as investment precautions are concerned, what we typically kind of recommend is any investor who's looking to make some sort of investment, right? Just every VC fund has a specific thesis, right? That this is the thesis which I want to follow. These are the sectors which I want to follow, and this is the kind of area which I'm looking at, right? Even an angel investor probably is not going to invest that kind of money, but having that sort of clarity in mind really goes a long way, because what he can do is he can then prioritize the sectors he wants. He can do a good solid research around those sectors, understand what's working, what's not working, what's good or bad, and based on that make a much more educational choice regarding investment in the company, right? So that kind of clarity should be required. They should consider themselves, because they're going to be putting their own money, right? So that sort of due diligence is extremely important. At the same time, at least around 10% of the total funds which are there, right? So if they have like $1 million of disposable, not disposable, a spare fund which they are looking to invest, right? Out of that, we would recommend around 10% of that they should look at startup investment in terms of getting those accelerated returns, and focus on specific sectors which they have some sort of expertise in, or something which they truly like or are they passionate about. For example, in today's day and time, clean tech is an absolutely phenomenal area to get into. Fintech is absolutely phenomenal. Health tech is absolutely phenomenal. So identify those sectors which you are truly related to, and work
right.
towards that. That would be an extremely great approach to kind of look at initial investing.
Absolutely, absolutely, totally agree. I'm going to come to that as well, like why Asia has become suddenly the hotbed for investments. Like investors are all now sort of looking into Asia as a region to grow their portfolio. I'm going to come to that, but again, let's just take that question from Vandana. Like, what advice do you give to both investors, and startups in Asia, from your
So the thing is, with regards to startups, they need to make their pitch deck in order, and they need to get it done by a professional, because that is what is selling to the investor. Not only that, a financial model, a business plan has to be in order. When they reach out to investors, they should appoint an advisor who has direct relationships with these investors. There has to be a complementary team, which complements each other, where the investor will invest. Again, not burning the investor's money. We had a case when somebody used it to cure cancer, the investment. So, all these things really add on to the entire thing. And aspiring entrepreneurs should focus on building products and services for users in developing markets rather than already well served advanced economy. And trying to speak to investors early on, whatever stage your business idea is, the experts agree that it is never too early to start talking to investors.
right.
Very occasionally, venture capital firms may be willing to invest in an idea alone. But even in the more common instances where investors want to see an additional physical proof of concept before parting with their cash, they may be willing to share their advice to help you on your way. And
Right.
also, one should think long term. Apart from forward planning for investment, it's important to plan for the future of the business and be deliberate about where you want it to go in the long term. That doesn't necessarily mean knowing exactly how much money you plan to make, but rather what the factors are behind those revenues. And financial projections will never be accurate, but it's all about the projections and the growth drivers. Now, governments and investors have important roles to play in improving Asia's startup ecosystem and make it easier for new companies to scale up through alliances with large companies. And governments should offer financial incentives and issue mandates for national champions to collaborate with and nurture nascent businesses. Investors should strive to create linkages between the Asian corporate and startup worlds. And
Right.
venture capital funds can widen the pool of potential zebras by making corporate partnerships, the heart of their value proposition. Rather than adopting a spray and pray approach to investing, venture capitalists should provide hands-on support to new businesses by introducing them to potential partners, helping frame a win-win collaboration models, and sourcing talent through late funding stages. So there's a whole lot of thing that is goes into this.
Yes, and the corporate partnership is obviously very, very important,
Yeah.
because how would you scale? How would you grow without partnerships, right? That's very important as well. So,
Yeah.
what are just want to know, what, as per you, you see different in terms of characteristics that Asia has, as opposed to a matured market that actually attracts an investor, they're saying, this is where I want to invest my money, my dollars, because I see a lot of potential. So how Asia is different in terms of the attributes, the scope that Asia has for investors. Hush, I think we sort of lost Gary, but he's going to be back.
Sure. So, yeah, I could not follow the question. Are you saying which sectors are doing better right now? Is that the question?
No, so what factors or characteristics in Asia's current investment ecosystem make it a suitable investment opportunity? What
Okay, got
factors
it.
are driving it?
Got it. Got it. So, the coming back to the introduction point which I mentioned, right? If you look at Asia, it's primarily the startup ecosystem is restricted to these four countries: India, China, Singapore, Hong Kong, right? But the other markets, they are still very nascent. So what that gives us is, it gives us a lot of information in terms of how those economies are going to behave, right? So if someone comes up with a PayPal kind of a solution in a less developed market like say Thailand or Philippines, obviously it's going to do good. That is so there was a company for e-commerce called Zelingo in Singapore. I'm sure you must be very well familiar with that, right? It started in 2014 2015, and they're already a unicorn right now, and they are growing phenomenally well. So essentially what happens is, in a lot of these early stage these countries where the startup ecosystem is not yet mature, you already have a lot of learning. It's already been done in other countries. All you need to do is something who can put those similar things over there in the new economy, and you'll see a lot of benefit over there. At the same time, you need to customize it based on the local requirements as well, because what worked in one country may not work into the other country, right? So the investors need to have that sort of an understanding, that sort of difference, to figure out that this is going to be a good opportunity. Apart from that, if you look at it in terms of opportunities, right, the biggest difference in terms of opportunity is most of the countries in Southeast Asia, the markets are extremely fragmented, right? And what technology helps us to do is to kind of aggregate them. And you have these big players which 10-15% market share, and they are billion-dollar companies. So that there's still a lot of plenty of opportunity where you can do those kind of things. You just look at the growth in fintech which has happened, right? Nigeria is doing phenomenally in fintech right now. Likewise, there are lots of other opportunities in the smaller countries as well, in the fintech space, in the agriculture space, in health tech space. So essentially, there's still phenomenal opportunity because they are still very nascent markets, and that is the best time to kind of get into. And with the learning which has happened over the last 2 decades, it's extremely easy to, and you can, in the number of predictions can go, the percentage of accuracy of predictions would be fairly higher as well.
Nascent markets. Yeah, sure, I agree to that. Gary, same question. So, what factors or characteristics in Asia's current investment ecosystem makes it suitable investment opportunity for investors like yourself?
Well, I mean, there's 4.5 billion people in Asia, so you got a huge population to be able to go after. And Harsh is right. So if you get a very small portion of it, you're still a really successful company. The key is to come up with the secret sauce to get in and come up with a strategy that works in most of the countries, and that's where the difficulty comes in. I mean, the situation with it's just like in Nigeria, as Harsh was saying, they
Yeah.
focus on artificial intelligence and fintech, and there are companies like Flutterwave and Patricia. Flutterwave's a unicorn now. We're working with both of them actually, Patricia and Flutterwave, and Patricia's a $500 million company. So I think that part of the is finding those those grains of sand that are going to be the next unicorns and really cultivating them, because I mean here they are dominating their space and yet they have worldwide application. So there's really three stages, right, for the Asian companies. One is acceleration, two is regional dominance, dominating a place like Vietnam or Singapore, and then how do you go to the next stage, which is the hardest, is how do you go global? How do you
Yeah.
take the company out so that you're part of the network where you can get the kind of investment that's going to help you grow the company to
Yeah.
create a unicorn or to get the right kind of M&A activity? So and a lot of it, quite frankly, Sonny, is
Yeah.
visibility. You got to have, a lot of those companies don't spend a lot of time with their social media,
Correct.
writing articles, being known as industry experts. And if they don't do it, the first thing that somebody from the West is going to do is they're going to Google your name
Yeah.
while you're on the call with them.
That's true.
And if they don't see anything, they think it's sketchy, right? You
Yeah.
can say you're a $250 million company, but if there's nothing out there, nothing good's going to happen. So make sure that you have that online presence and be on some things like VCTV. In fact, I'm surprised that more startups don't do it. Right? It's a lot of good visibility for them, and it's a great opportunity for them to seek investors. So use the opportunities that are in front of you.
Absolutely. Again, I think it's just the cultural mindset, and I have seen the differences in mindset coming from West and East, especially coming on VCTV on a live streaming platform. I've seen people asking, is it going to be live streamed? Is it like private? And you can make out where where do they belong from?
Well, I mean, the thing is, you don't want to have it private. You want to have it live stream because you want visibility. So startups, get out there, practice your pitches. Listen, you got to go out and practice, practice, practice. I remember I did a TEDx talk a few years ago, and I got the directions from the TED organization of what I needed to do. You got to practice. Steve Jobs would practice 6 weeks in advance of his presentations at the Moscone Center because he was not a good speaker. Right? You got to practice, get out there. But if you don't get the visibility, how in the world are you going to raise funds? It's crazy.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Gary. Thank you so much. Vandana, over to you. Would you like to share something to what Harsh and Gary mentioned?
Yeah, most of the points they have covered, but one of the growing startup regions becoming a global hub is Asia, especially Southeast Asia and countries like China and India. And Asia has been exhibiting favorable macroeconomic trends such as a young, fast growing population, increased internet adoption, and rising wealth. The market is has a lot of money making potential. Management consultancy Bain and Company had predicted that by 2024 the region will be home to 10 more $1 billion startups, making a doubling of the region's current blessing of unicorns such as Grab, Gojek, and Traveloka. So, meanwhile, venture capital investment into Southeast Asia has more than tripled in the recent years. The region now exhibits the holy trinity of investors, capital, talent, and even customers. And other factors which make Asia more suitable are booming middle class. It is predicted that by 2040, China and India will represent 45% of the world's middle class population. So that is a great market. And many Asian countries are in process of implementing widespread economic and political reforms that should prove supportive of financial markets and foreign investments. China is leading in a way with the government moving away from export-led economy, bolstered by massive infrastructure spending to more domestically focused, more sustainable growth models. And overall, Asian governments are becoming increasingly market friendly, which should support investment and growth in the long term. And like Gary mentioned, that visibility is very important. I also believe I can tell you a short story about myself. I had done a lot of work, but I had never made Conmanto until somebody said, make Conmanto, go digital, do this, do that. And that's when I got the maximum recognition. And, I think this month, 4 magazines have even covered me up. So writing articles does help. Going to, if magazines call you for interviews, it does help. VCTV also does help a lot, and many other platforms like these will help you go global and make you reach a lot of more places where you couldn't reach earlier. So I think all these factors really help us to be where we are. I mean, how would we have met Gary, Hirsch, and yourself if I had not been on VCTV?
We're just one big happy family.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely big happy family. All right. My last question. I just want to know because I read on the news that SPAC, obviously SPAC is nothing new. Obviously, when you talk about Silicon Valley perspective, but is SPAC found a new home in Asia? Gary.
Well, I mean, the situation, absolutely. I mean, this is having done a IPO on NASDAQ and been involved in this process. If it's done the right way, Sonny, the problem is a lot of the SPACs have not been done the right way. They have not, there have been, celebrities that have come out. They don't really have a grounding in their particular area. They just have recognition. It's the same fundamental, the same fundamentals as building a startup. You need to have the right team. You need to have the right advisors. You need to have the right board of directors. You need to have the right investment bank. You need to have the right sponsorship money in order to get out. And if you have those, you have the ingredients to bake a cake and bake it the right way. Because when it's all said and done, it's not about the IPO. It's about whether you're creating value, sustainable long-term value. And of course, there's an opportunity in Asia to be able to do it. There's an opportunity all over the world right now, but you have to build quality. There's a lot of SPACs coming out. There's a lot of opportunity with IPOs, but you need to make sure you're back to fundamentals, just like we did when we did our IPO on NASDAQ with Click Software. And you got to make sure that those things are right. So there's a huge opportunity if it's done the right way. And if it's not done the right way, the regulators will shut down the SPAC environment. They won't let it happen.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you so much, Gary, for sharing those insights. Harsh, what do you see?
Yes, so definitely SPAC is much more intricate. From the startup perspective, there could be nothing better, right? It's an extremely easy exit route to give an exit to the past investors. But if you look at it in terms of the complications which are involved in kind of setting up a SPAC, and the kind of fees which are there, and the kind of credibility which is there, it's an extremely very tight mix, right? To get the right startup to acquire, and if you don't acquire it within 2 years, the SPAC could get dissolved. So as Gary pointed out, lots of risks, lots of vulnerabilities, and if not done right, it could be a huge problematic scene. And the only people who end up making money are the bankers. This is like,
Harsh, one of the things, so think about this though, right? If you're going down through and do a SPAC, I mean, it's if you're connected in the environment and people know who you are, it's a whole lot easier to find companies, right?
correct,
If you're in the network. But the problem is a lot of these people coming in are not in the network, and so they're doing things. It's not so easy. So the it's just like hype. It's like the ICO stuff in the beginning,
exactly.
hyped up, and and but now things have changed, right? It's a lot more based on fact. People aren't willing to invest like they were before.
Correct.
So
No, no.
which is the bigger challenge? Sorry, is it the finding the startup or is it forming the management team?
So, Gary, you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean the thing is, it's well, it's all of the above, right? Because it's the Germans have a phrase, Gestalt is some of the parts equal the whole. If you don't have good management, how do you find a team? It's a chicken and the egg. Well, you need good management, good team, great sponsors, and great investment bankers, and a great law firm to work with. You need to have synergy, or this will not work. It's not easy. And by the way, it's 18 or 24 months, depending upon what you can get agreements. So you got a short period of time to find those companies. So yes, it can be done. But what you want to do when you're building your board of advisors, you want to build people, you want to bring in people that have the contacts to be able to help.
Great, thank you, Gary. Harsh, you were saying something?
Yeah, exactly. So Gary kind of elaborated the challenges, right? You look at in terms of the variabilities and even the risk of kind of going retail with the companies and saying this is going to be an empty company. We're looking to acquire a company within the next 2 years, and this is the philosophy which we are going to look at, right? It's going to be very difficult for a retail investor to invest in a structure like this unless the guys behind them are a proven commodity, right? So that is exactly where a lot of uncertainty is involved, and that's why even William would kind of attest to that. William is kind of running his own SPAC right now, so he can kind of attest to the difficulties which are involved in managing the SPAC. So that is why I'm not really sure. Obviously, the Singapore and the Hong Kong markets are different, and they are definitely open to something like this. I'm not sure if Indian market is ready for something like that or no right now.
Right.
The fact that we had a huge Zomato IPO success, that itself is a huge achievement, and I think that that's a great step forward. But whether the Indian market is still ready for something like a SPAC or not, I would not put my hopes up yet.
No? Okay, cool. Thank you. Vandana, let's just hear it from you.
So I think it's all a matter of being again proactive and progressive. Once it's like everybody has a herd mentality. Now Zomato happened, Nika is happening, some other companies will happen. So it's a herd mentality that everybody follows. So automatically, I see people getting into SPAC, but again, whether it's investments, whether it's startups, whether it's investment banking, quality is really important. Is at the end of the day what you're delivering, what kind of team you have,
Yeah.
whether it is able to, whether they are deal makers or no, at what stage they are. So I think all that management is really, really important. If you have really awesome people in your management, I think you can go longer way than if you don't have proper people, and you're still trying to educate them. Oh, look, you need to do this way, or you need to,
Yeah.
then you're not actually doing the work properly. I know investment bankers in India
Mhm.
who take a lot of much higher fees than what I take, but they don't deliver at all. So so I think
Right.
it's better to deliver properly and create a name in the market, because one needs to see long term growth.
Yeah.
Short term growth, there are many ways. And coming to Harsh's point, there is one fund with which I'm discussing SPAC heavily. So
Right.
India is adapting this SPAC thing, but
Mm.
of course it's going to take slightly longer than usual, but it will
Yeah.
happen. I can see it happening in the next 6 months. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So, Harsh, here you go. Great.
Would be would be keeping in touch and seeing what how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, please keep us updated. We're going to have another panel on Slack maybe to discuss that.
Yep.
All right, great. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your insights on this topic today. And I really enjoyed, besides meeting the family members again. So let's just take some closing thoughts before we wrap up the show. I'm going to start with Gary. Gary, you're mute.
This is a great time, and if you take advantage of this digital revolution and get the word out, make sure that you've got the visibility so that anybody that you're talking to can Google your name and Google your company's name to figure out who you are, because trust is really important.
Yeah.
We've moved forward over the last 2 years. We've taken quantum leaps forward in terms of how we deal and do business around the world. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about the opportunities in AI and fintech, cybersecurity, quantum computing, because we're in the verge, we're at the dawn of an entirely new era, and we need these types of technologies to make our lives better. You can reach me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn, or you can reach me on Twitter, or check out my shows.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Vandana?
So, since Gary mentioned Googling the name many times, if anybody Googles my name, there's a lot of information about me. There are a lot of good things written about me. So, please reach out to me via my website or via LinkedIn. And of course, Asian market has a lot of scope, and there are a lot of upcoming startups. I can see a lot happening. I think we'll have a totally change of discussion post 6 months. We will be in a different zone altogether. So let's hope to see a lot of investments happening in Asia, and a lot of investors from all parts of the world investing in here, and especially in the Indian startups. And please do Google my name.
Ooh, point noted. Yes. Thank you so much, Vandana. Aha,
Hmm.
show it to you, please.
Yeah, so definitely Asian markets have a lot of opportunity. One thing which I would kind of see so the point which I mentioned earlier, angel investors are a backbone of a strong and thriving startup and VC ecosystem, right? What typically tends to happen is the conventional business owners, they tend to kind of crave about startups, right? Okay, because you have all this VC money, you're
Yeah.
growing crazy fast and all that stuff. They need to kind of remove that blockage and remove that mindset and truly appreciate what's happening over here, that these are game changing companies which are happening, right? If you remove that blockage and say that rather than focus on the unfair advantage or whatever whatnot, the fact is the money is not the differentiator, it's the value which is being created, right? Appreciate that beauty, appreciate what's happening, and rather than criticizing it, be a part of something like this, because there's a lot more money to be made through that route, right? So that is what is needed, and what that's the sort of visionary approach is needed to kind of get Asia to move
Right.
further and higher up in the value system, in the startup ecosystem, right? So that is one one message for all the investors out there. And if anyone from non-Asian background wants to invest in the Asian markets, it's extremely important to have a trustworthy confidant in the local markets who can guide you through the process, right?
That's
Because
harsh.
For the Indian markets, definitely. So because what's going to happen is unless you have that local person, it's going to become very difficult, right? So if any startup founders, they need any sort of help in terms of fundraising or growing their company, or any VC funds need any sort of help for the Indian markets, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help out.
Thank you, Harsh. Thank you, Gary, Vandana. It was an awesome episode today. Again, I'm going to meet you maybe tomorrow on another episode. Till then, take care, keep smiling, and bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.